After hitting snow and trying to wait out the weather, we ran out of propane. What a shame. We really were looking forward to enjoying this beautiful spot. We do appreciate a well-built fire ring. It wasn't a total loss. Red Canyon was my favorite scenic off-road drive so far on this adventure. We're continuing our 12-part video series on scenic remote places in Utah. It was pretty chilly in Miss Kitty, so we welcomed being in a warm truck for the drive to Green River. We opted to skip some of the trails we planned for this trip, but we still had a lot planned. We're getting back on I-70. The interstate extends from Maryland to Utah. The Colorado mountain portion is beautiful, so beautiful that we did a video just to show it off. But this little section through the swell is my favorite interstate drive of all time. Even driving on an interstate with lots of traffic and a speed limit of 80 miles per hour, two things you know I hate, doesn't deter me from wanting to drive it over and over. We've been through Green River many times. The town's population is less than 1,000. It's mostly been a quick stop to stock up on melons when traveling to Utah in the fall. With an ideal climate and perfect soil, people here have been growing melons for over 100 years. We really haven't spent a whole lot of time here, but thanks to some knowledgeable friends, we've learned that Green River offers so much more than melons. We're heading 10 miles out of town to camp next to something of an oddity for Utah, a geyser. This is primitive camping with no services. You pick the spot. Just know that if you want to be close to the geyser, you'll have some company. Several off-roaders visit periodically. In 1935, an oil exploration well was drilled on the edge of an ancient spring. A year later, the well was abandoned after drilling to a depth of 2,600 feet. This created the geyser. It became a regional attraction. Over the years, the height and frequency of the eruptions have decreased. Unfortunately, visitors dropped rocks into the well to trigger eruptions. This caused a permanent change in the eruptions. It's one of the world's largest cold water geysers. Eruptions happen every 8 to 27 hours and last anywhere from 3 to 50 minutes. The spontaneity makes her a pleasant surprise. Some call this a soda pop geyser since it's loaded with carbon dioxide gas, which prompts the eruptions, much like a shaken can of soda. We found the geyser to be beautiful. We camped here for the geyser, but discovered a large set of trails to explore. The area is labeled Labyrinth Canyon, Gemini Bridges. Here's a peek. Returning to a campsite next to a river, definitely a win. Another odd thing to find in Utah is a beach. It's a beautiful drive to get there. Just before reaching the beach, we stopped to watch the boats come off Green River. This may be a mistake, and I'll tell you why in a minute. The beach is free to use. I really didn't know what to expect. I expected the sand to be less than par, but it wasn't. Next to it is a small campground with 12 sites. There is a nominal fee. You have metal fire rings, picnic tables, an outhouse, and camping pads. No hookups, but you do have trash. If you drive further up the road, you can find free dispersed camping along Green River. There's a settler's cabin you can check out too. There wasn't any information about the cabin at the site, and I didn't find much online. It makes for an interesting stop though. As you drive the road, there are several designated campsites, none of which I'd bring a big rig or fancy fifth wheel. In fact, I wouldn't drive down any of them without walking them first, but they do back up to Green River. So remember I said it might be a mistake to stop and look at the boats coming in at the boat ramp? As we continued on, we found a series of boat launch areas. So far we have camping by a river and places to get in and out of the water. But I'm a little skittish about kayaking larger rivers. Green River doesn't look too imposing right now, but big water can be powerful. We used to live on a river and I've gotten in just enough trouble to be a little scared. I've been done with whitewater for quite some time, but the Hubs, he still craves it. I'm sure he'll find a way to get me on the river and drag me through some whitewater at some point. Hanging out on the beach sounds good to me. Supposedly Nefertiti has petroglyphs somewhere. We didn't see them, but then we weren't looking too hard. Today, the Green River is primarily used for recreation purposes, but the town got its start as a river crossing for the U.S. mail. A ferry and a way station was set up in 1876, and Green River became a stopover for travelers with a ferry transporting people, supplies, and animals. These last few weeks, we've hardly seen any towns. Even though Green River's on a major interstate, the closest town with facilities is an hour away. This town is usually just a short stop for most people. We came into town to stock up on some groceries. Yes, they have a small grocery store, but what I really wanted to see was the character of the town. You know, the places that show a history. We enjoyed this just as much as driving through the million-dollar neighborhoods of a developed area. Green River has its own beauty. In the town park, you'll find a monument to the Green River test site. It was a Cold War military sub-installation of the White Sand Missile Range for the United States Air Force. From 1964 to 1975, there were 244 launches. I looked up some information online and even found a YouTube video on a group of guys who found the grounds. It looked like an opportunity to do some ghost town type hunting. We didn't encounter any no trespassing signs, but there was an old RV there with no one around. We walked around and tried to piece together using the photos that we'd seen to determine what things were. The site looked quite a bit different than what we had seen in the video. We concluded that the site was being disassembled and sold off for scrap. We're taking one more ride in the area where we camp to see if we can get a view. This old building looks like some kind of bunker. What do you think it is? What do you think it was used for? Could it have been used as part of the missile test site? We don't know. Write it in the comments if you think you do. Next week we'll head back into the swell for one more ride, but before we do, we walked around the geyser when it was dry and found petrified wood. So pretty. If you appreciate the content, please like and subscribe to support the channel. Next week, we'll venture to Black Dragon Wash to see ancient native art. Hit the bell so you don't miss an episode.
Did you hear about the kidnapping that took place at school? It's okay, he woke up.